listening to Zap Night, a video game review podcast. Join your hosts Danny, Kaylee, Seth, and Evan as we review video games from all systems and all genres. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 42 for Zap Night. I'm your host Danny, and today I have Mark with me. We played CupHead. So, what'd you think? First thoughts of CupHead. Like, what did you think about it?
My first thoughts of CupHead were, it was a game I was really looking forward to coming out.
Right.
And it got delayed probably like at least once or twice.
I think it got, like several times in the process.
I kind of just forgot about it. And
wasn't it an Indiegogo game? Or was it a Kickstarter game? I know that it was crowdfunded in some aspect.
The only thing I knew going in was that it was an Xbox exclusive, and since that's the only console I own, I was pretty excited.
Yeah.
But I ended up forgetting about it down the line just because it got, they basically kicked the can down the road, and when it finally came out, like it had been in the store for a few months, I'm like, oh, it's CupHead! And then, I got it, and I played it a little bit, then it's like, this is kind of difficult, let me put it down for a while, and then, after I started playing with you, that's when we finally made some actual progress.
And it took us, what, like 2 years kind of to beat it?
I don't think it was that long.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, what was our total time? Do you remember? It was like 20 hours, somewhere in there?
Almost a full day of actual gameplay to actually beat the game, for sure. So it felt like, I don't know if it felt like 2 years, but there was definitely a long stretch when we got to one of the final bosses where I think we put it down for like 2 months.
Yeah, we did.
And then I actually invited you over to play that one time, and we were gonna play, and then we started playing something else, and it was just too intimidating to go back into it. Yeah. So we just spent the night on something completely different.
Yeah. So here's some of the details of CupHead. It's developed by Studio DMHR. Not really sure what the acronym is.
Yeah, I think this is their only game.
I think it is. It's originally on the Xbox One, but it's also on Steam. The story behind that, from what I understand, is that they got a huge backing from Microsoft, and the deal was like Microsoft will back them, but it's going to be a Microsoft exclusive. That said, there are a lot of talks of it going to the Switch. Not sure how soon or if that's going to happen, but there are a lot of talks of it.
I think Microsoft's main goal was probably just to keep it off the PS4.
I'm sure.
I'm sure they would not care as much if it went, because they'd still get proceeds if it went
because they helped develop it.
Right.
I was sad because I'm not a huge fan of the Xbox. I have them, obviously, but I don't know. I was really hoping for it to be on the PS4, and then when it wasn't, I was just like, oh, bummed. So I was happy when you had it.
Yeah, I know.
That was like, yes.
It's like the only win for me.
So excited for this.
I just because I was a PC gamer prior, and I'm like, well, let me just get a console just so I have like something to watch, like Amazon Prime and stuff as well.
Right.
And like a lot of games I wanted to play were going to the PS4, and all of my friends only had a PS4, so it's like, wow, this was a big mistake. That is like, CupHead came out, and man, that's like the one time I was really happy to have gotten the Xbox instead of a competitor.
And it definitely is a great game in some aspects, not a great game in others. So let's talk about the story. Oh, it was released in September 2017. I added it in my notes, so I thought I'd say it. Although they do have a DLC upgrade.
They have a DLC upgrade?
Coming this year. With a whole new island and more bosses, and
obviously
the girl CupHead, the like one that you rescue in the temple or whatever. Her head's more
like a holy grail.
She's gonna be a playable character.
Okay.
And she's gonna. I don't know if you get to choose between, or there's gonna be like 3. You could play as 3 players. I don't know how that's gonna work, but
all she did in this one was give you terrible upgrades to your starting super. That were
I know.
Pretty disappointing.
So let's talk about the story a little bit. Feel free to help me with the gaps as much as you can. CupHead and his brother.
Story.
I know, right? It's really just the reason for why you're doing what you're doing. So Cuphead and his brother Mugman go to the Devil's Casino to play against him. And after a winning streak,
which is a terrible idea. Like, you don't...
absolutely, yeah. I mean, if the sign says like Devil's Casino, it's probably like,
and then
maybe
you
not.
see the actual devil inside, and he wants your soul if you lose. Like, just get out then.
So yeah, after a winning streak, the devil offers all the money in the casino if the boys win, but if they lose, they have to sign over their soul. Well, of course they lose, and Cuphead then is offered a deal from the devil that if, in exchange for their lives or their souls, if he goes around and collects the soul contracts from all of the other residents on the island,
which are all giant bosses,
exactly, then they'll be spared. So they go around and collect all of the contracts. They go from island to island in this Inkwell world. And
I think it's all like Inkwell Isle.
Inkwell Isle.
The starting isle for sure.
And then once they make it back to the casino, they run into
Mr. King Dice.
Mr. King Dice, right. And Mr. King Dice is like the manager for the devil, and he is also
the devil's right-hand man.
Yes, he is. From the song, of course. Yes. So he's really upset because he has also made a bet with the devil that Cuphead wouldn't make it this far. So obviously he fights you too, and then you get his contract, and then you go fight the devil himself.
I don't know if he had a contract so much.
That's true. I don't know.
It was just so basically you have to get all the contracts for the one, like Isle 1, or Mr. King Dice won't let you pass to the next Isle. And you go to Isle 2, Isle 3, then finally when you go, you're like, hey, we're going to get our souls back because we got all of the souls of the residents of the Isles. He's like, I made a bet with the devil that you would fail, so this was like a lose-lose situation for you. And I don't think he had a contract, because basically at the end of the game, like, the devil's like, I kind of lost my dude, and he must have been pretty incompetent if you beat him, so why don't you be my
oh yeah, that's right,
my two
dudes. He does. He offers you the position, and if you accept it, then you get turned into like demons.
Basically, you were like personified demon cups, whatever those things were at the end,
and then the game ends. Like,
it was surprising.
Ending.
Like, I assumed it would be a thing where you're like, yeah, I'll join you, but then like something would like bump you back to the thing, and then you'd have to fight him anyway. But no, it's just like, okay, we're with you now. I hope we can go back and say no. And then fortunately we could.
Yeah. So you go back and you say no, then you fight the devil himself, and he surprisingly wasn't all that hard.
Well, he was quite difficult. But compared to Mr. King Dice, really stole the show.
He did. Oh yeah,
for me.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
we'll get into it.
Yes.
We'll get into it. So, when they beat the devil, they get all the contracts back, and all the they burn all the contracts,
right?
And so they set all of the residents of Inkwell free, and they have this big hero ceremony thing, and they're heroes then.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is funny to me, because this whole time Cuphead is like fighting all these people who are really just trying to save themselves. And
pretty much just
you think going into a game like this that you're fighting bad guys, and you're not.
No. They're basically just trying, like, hey, I don't want to give up my soul like you stupidly did, so I'm gonna like, to me, the best, Cuphead and Mugman could hope for at the end were like, okay, you made up for your mistake and you gave us our souls back, and like, I'm really happy to have my soul back, so I'm not gonna just like pummel you into the ground kind of thing. But like, I wouldn't really view them as heroes so much. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I would view them more as like dumb youths.
Well, think of it this way: all those residents had a debt with the devil to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously all of them were kind of...
They were all dumb.
Run by the devil's casino.
For sure, yeah. So maybe they all played craps with the devil.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there were other characters on the Isles.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, they
didn't
aren't
fight.
I mean, again, with the story, like, to me, like, the contracts and, like, your soul getting taken is like the Princess Peach of the game, pretty much. Like, your soul contract is in another castle kind of thing. So, the fact that I don't really remember a lot of the other characters or the dialogue, like, the most memorable dialogue to me was, like, the gramophone and the record player in the last Isle that had, like, the competition between them.
Yeah.
Wait, are gramophone and record player the same thing?
No. Well, yeah, they are, but they're...
Well, you had two old-timey personified instruments that were like, oh, this is the best kind of music, and that's about the most I remember. Very
small.
Right,
yeah.
right. So, it wasn't so much the story that immersed you in the game, it was, it was probably the art style, which I'm sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which I'm sure we'll get into.
So, what would you give the story out of 10?
I mean, would you have enjoyed the game any less if there wasn't a story at all, and you just like went over to the first boss and started
Not
fighting?
Really.
Like,
it wouldn't change much.
It wouldn't change a whole lot.
I mean, it's nice that they included it.
It was interesting enough that. Like, I was intrigued at the end that it's like, oh, I can actually join the devil. Like, that was a little bit intriguing, so it's not like his
And
zero.
the dynamic that he had with King Dice, like, that's interesting, and it's fun to kind of explore on what's going on. It's like, I don't want to give it a bad score, because I don't want it to reflect on the rest of the gameplay as well, or the rest of the overall score of the game. But it's like, I don't know, I put it at a 7.
Okay, that's pretty generous. Yeah.
What do you think? What would you give it?
I mean, if 7 is like a C, if we're going like by the American school system rating system, like 70% a C, I would. Yeah, it's adequate. It's fine. It serves the game's purpose.
Sure,
is what I can say for it.
All right, so let's talk about the graphics. I gave it a 9 out of 10 for the graphics.
So okay, for me, the graphics, I mean, first, the good things about the graphics. Like, the graphics are, like, straight up out of the 1930s, 40s.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
very
original
classic,
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
For sure. Basically, if, like, the guys from the 1930s received, like, modern training in their original art style and could, like, more smoothly and fluidly animate something with new technology, like, that's basically what it is. It's absolutely amazing. The art is... Like, after just the gameplay itself, the art is probably the biggest plus for me. The only demerit that prevents it from getting the full 10 was this horribly annoying filter.
That's what yes. And see, the problem is, it was so annoying that it was distracting. And you don't want that in a game that's this awesome and this gorgeous of a game. You don't want to haze it with this stupid filter that you can't turn on and off.
Yeah. So I don't know if like you're going to show gameplay or anything, but to describe the filter is basically, if you watch like very old cartoons, like pre-Looney Tunes, like maybe even, I'm not sure if Popeye has it, but
it's like real, real film.
Like the older technology would create unwanted artifacts like on the film, like little lines and dots or whatever you would call them, and that's kind of like an old-timey filter now. And even like YouTube has used it, like the YouTube like old-timey, where they like the like do 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 or whatever song they had playing, like the old-timey filter, like that's what it is. And it's not needed. Like the art speaks for itself. It's not like oh, we're gonna throw a filter on it, then we can call it old school. Like the core of the game is already the art style is completely old school, and it's not needed. It detracts from the game.
I mean, sure. you start throwing in all of the background images and all of the stuff flying around on screen is distracting enough, and then you have this filter on top of it. It's just It's just annoying, really. Yep. But I mean, that said, the backgrounds are amazing, and like every level, every boss fight, the backgrounds look great. The foreground, even, they have like that too was kind of distracting depending on the boss.
There was the one of the King Dice sub bosses where the foreground would block at least 50% of the screen, and
there was several of them like that where it was just it was like there was something in the way, or they would, I don't know, maybe it was a difficulty factor that they were adding in where they wanted you to be blind to it in some way to make it more difficult.
I suppose so. Unfair difficulty.
Yeah.
Like artificial difficulty.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, oh, I can't see anything, so I have to take damage kind of difficulty.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I gave it a 9. What do you think?
Definitely a 9.
Okay.
I would say 10 out of 10 if it wasn't for
that filter.
For the gimmicky filter, for sure.
If they just had a toggle to turn that thing off, it would have been great.
Yeah. Like, there's other games that also include something like that, but they view it as what it is as a gimmick, and it's like, you go to the menu like, oh, turn it off, we're good now.
Yeah.
So they should have done that for sure.
So, let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay, I mean, we went into it knowing that the bosses were going to be insanely hard.
Right.
And that's part of the appeal.
It gained, like, I didn't know what to like, looking at the trailer for the game, I wouldn't have guessed that it was, like, super difficult necessarily. It just looked like a really cool game that I'd be interested in. Like, oh, it's an old-timey, it's like, not old-timey, old-school platformer.
Right.
Old-school, like, action platformer where the gimmick is you face bosses and there isn't all, like, that filler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, the boss fights are what you remember from games anyway, for the most part, not the filler leading up to it. Especially not, like, underwater and sewer levels which seem to permeate these games.
They didn't have an underwater level.
No, that's what I'm saying. Weird, like, they cut the filler. So, it immediately gained that reputation as a hard game. So I think we just knew from the reputation from what other people who had, like, gotten on it immediately were saying. So, I didn't necessarily expect it at first to be hard, but after Inkwell Isle 1 is where the difficulty really ramped up, and we realized, like, we were really going to be in for a long ride.
Yeah. Yeah. The boss fights were fun in that every fun. I mean, they were fun, but it was like
there were a couple I was very happy were over.
Yeah.
Most of here's the thing though. The only reason, maybe not the only reason, but one of the reasons I was so frustrated with some of the more difficult bosses that we had to retry over and over again is because it was preventing me from seeing, like, the cool design of the next boss and all, like, the moves and what things you had to learn to be, like, it's like, I want to see the rest of the game, like, stop holding me up from seeing the rest of the game kind of thing.
It's a very tedious game. I mean, every boss, because there's so many different, there's usually, 3 stages to a boss, usually, and 3 or 4, and then it's like you master the first stage of it, and then you have to figure out the second stage. And the gameplay or the challenge of that boss, the gimmick of that boss, changes so drastically between their phases that it's really like trial and error until you finally figure out, okay, in this phase we have to do these set of moves, in this phase we got to change it up to this set of moves. On top of this trial and error, then you have all of the different weapon upgrades and special moves that you can use that play on that dynamic.
Right. They weren't, so it wasn't like the different weapons in the game, they weren't like Mega Man where it's like, oh, each boss has like an Achilles heel where like you use it and it's like easy mode for that boss. It wasn't like that. Like, it was more of, oh, like if you use the lobber, you're going to be able to do some extra damage based on where like the boss is positioned and things like that. But I would imagine pretty much every boss you could beat with any of the weapons. There were just gives you maybe a little edge to use the right one. I think especially the charge beam was the one that made the biggest difference.
The charge beam, I really liked the spread shot. I mean, all of them had their like their positives and negatives. Like the spread shot was really cool because you got, you know, wider variety to hit, but it didn't go very far.
Right.
You know, the lobber had a very funny like trajectory to it, and it like bounced around. The charge beam, you got to wait for it to charge up. So it's like, you know, some of them have some significant disadvantages.
For sure, yeah. It gave, like, the weapon choices just gave us a little bit of a strategic edge.
Yeah.
In that, like, for example, one of the bosses, I don't remember which one, probably multiple at this point, but it's like we realized, oh, for the first phase, like, I'm just gonna like pummel the boss's head from under him while you use the spread shot to like get rid of the the little dudes that are coming at us, and that's gonna work way better than us like both, doing our own thing with whatever weapons. And like some of the bosses had like either long invincibility phases or phases where like you couldn't damage them, and that's where like the charge beam came in real handy, because it's like, all right, so during that phase I just charge up the charge beam, and then once they become vulnerable again, like I can hit them, and then they, you know what I mean? So it just, you could pile on the DPS a lot more efficiently that way.
Right. Some of the problems that I had, I kind of feel like that 2-player was harder than maybe a 1-player playthrough would be.
I think maybe that was just you.
Very well could be. I was terrible at this game most of the time anyway.
I think most of the bosses were like, you got halfway through the boss and then you would just like watch and cheer me on to hope like I could finish him.
Yeah, it did feel that way. Yep. I think my problem is there was so much stuff going on screen, and then our characters look so similar that not only am I distracted by all the stuff on screen trying to jump and dodge, but then I get confused as to who I'm looking at. And it's like, some bosses, if you just focus on your one character and where they're going and avoid the obstacles, you're fine. But other bosses, if you just focus on the one character, the boss is doing something completely different, and then you look away and then you get confused.
Like, I probably lost count of the number of times like I heard you say, "Oh, I was looking at your character."
Yeah,
something like that. Like you just like run
we both
right
had,
to
we
the
both had that.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's just part of it when you're playing with. I don't know what the fix would have been. Like maybe if the characters looked a little more drastically different. I mean, they have their color differences. Like I think their shoes are a different color or something.
But they're both cups.
Right.
I mean, technically you're a mug, I guess, but still.
It's not much different.
For sure. I mean, to his credit, I never, like, sometimes there's a problem of, like, I think your projectiles are enemy projectiles, and I never ran into that problem. Like, there was enough differentiation between enemy projectiles and, like, CupHead and
usually the enemy projectiles were things. Yeah. They were like, they had faces.
Oh, yeah, or moving. like fish coming out of the water,
right.
Or
a big cannonball.
Yes, things like that, or like a crate that's like tracking you. Yeah. You have to like time the drop so you can avoid it. Things like that for sure. But when they did shoot projectiles, like they were, as long as they weren't ghosts, because those were just bull crap. Anytime there were ghosts in the game, but other than that, yeah, I never had a problem with confusing allied projectiles with enemy projectiles. So that's
I think it helped that you get used to what the projectiles look like of your own. So like anything outside of that is enemy. But then you start, if you focus on the wrong character during gameplay, it can screw you up. You know? Yeah. I think I had the most problems with that during the run and gun phases, which is completely different from the bosses, and I feel like it might just be filler.
The run and gun phases were somewhat optional in a way that you only had to do them if you wanted to purchase your passive upgrade or like new active weapons.
Right.
Which are technically optional. You can beat the game without them.
True.
So it is filler in a way. I mean, the best part of the run and guns were just seeing the character designs and seeing what's around that next corner.
That's probably the only reason why we did as much of this game as we have. I wanted to keep seeing more. I wanted to see what the devil boss fight was like. Yeah. You know,
well,
outside of doing like
it's like when you just go into like the run and gun, it's like, dude, there's cars walking on ceilings. I know what I mean? It's like what is going to be next? And then like for the rest of the night, we just went like, whoa, to like mimic like the saxophone that came out.
Yep.
And like his projectile was literally the words "womp," I think. So
it was.
that was pretty cool. But
man, there was so many great like little details in this game that we couldn't possibly name them all.
Right. It's you do have to see it for yourself for sure. But to me, the art combined with the gameplay is just the bread and butter there. Like it's amazing.
It should be as a game should be.
Right. To me, I would say that the things that detracted from the gameplay, I don't really think they're CupHead specific. Like looking at the wrong, any game you play co-op, like
that's true.
you end up doing something like that.
Yeah.
Like same screen co-op, it just happens. So
yeah.
To me, the gameplay would be a 10 for sure, like hands down.
Well, what do you think about how the pairing worked?
The pairing?
Parrying.
Oh, parrying. Okay, I'm
parrying.
like the controllers
no,
pairing with the console.
Parrying.
Like, what do you mean? The parrying was an underused mechanic for sure. In the run and gun stages, like the parrying, I thought if you parried like everything, you got bonus score, like a bonus coin, or I might be wrong about that.
I know that you get your score goes up if you parry so many times within a level, whether it be boss or the run and gun. But it didn't really seem all that necessary,
right? Until
it like absolutely was necessary,
right.
And I kind of felt like that the parrying was kind of hard to hit like perfectly, and if you didn't hit it perfectly, then you end up getting damage taken out,
right? I had less of. I think I was more proficient at the parrying.
You were more proficient in everything in this game.
Yeah. My only complaint about the parrying is parrying. Jeez.
I know it's difficult.
It's like saying horror. You end up just like leaving out a syllable and just like running it all together. Like it's like that horror movie last night. It's like horror movie. But the only thing about the parrying is that it was a really cool mechanic that was underused. Like every once in a while, like the boss would shoot out. Like the gimmick was that anything that was like bright pink could be parried, pretty much. And sometimes it wasn't even like an orb or a projectile. Sometimes it was like a thing that was pink.
Yeah.
But it was underused. It was just like unnecessary. Like maybe there were 4 boss projectiles circling you, and one of them was pink, and you could parry it. So, like, then you just have 3 projectiles to worry about. But in going after that projectile,
you could get hit.
You put yourself in just as much danger as if you just treated it like it didn't exist, basically. So,
one of the other problems that I had with the gameplay was you had to completely exit out of the battle or exit all the way back to the main like world just to change your weapon, which was kind of annoying.
A little, yeah, that did become a little bit
when we're doing the trial and error thing in each of the bosses. It's like I just want to quick change my weapon once just to see if this might help, and then you gotta exit all the way back and then go back in, and then
small potatoes though. If we're
like
if the only detractors we have are like menu GUI, then things like that, then it's
fair enough.
To me, the gameplay, it's like a reverse RPG in that, like, for example, like, one of my favorite games of all time, Final Fantasy VII, is, it's not good because of the gameplay, and most of the game could be beaten just by pressing attack and watching the characters attack.
Right.
And, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're not beating something, then you just, like, go to the Isle of Ancients and level up 10 levels and then come back and you win,
Right.
But this is like, your characters have set physical limitations that don't really improve during the game, and it's up to you to work within those, limitations within the game physics to overcome them. So the more you fight the bosses, like it's up to you as the player to level up, so to speak, and you're getting better. If you beat the boss, it's not because like you leveled up and gained like, enough mana to cast Fireball or, some nonsense. Or, now I can cast Ultima, so I can just
it's because you were good enough to beat the boss.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I'm just going to come back and cast Meteor.
That is rewarding. When
sure.
you do finally beat a boss, how many times were you like cheering and high-fiving? It's like,
oh yeah.
Like, it was a big accomplishment to beat King Dice, when
any
you beat
of the
King Dice.
I think each of the bosses that I beat, like, I was so surprised when the boss finally went down. It was just like, wait, we actually did it? I'm done? I'm pretty sure the what happened after every single boss victory was me looking over at you and going, oh! and then we'd high five, and that would be... So, yeah, I was so incredibly jubilant on every boss defeat. Like, it was just so fulfilling to finally do it.
But I do feel like they were so hard that we were saying, we never have to fight that one again. We never have to do it again.
Exactly.
It's like, I don't know, this funny balance of love-hate with how the gameplay runs.
Like, it never got so frustrating that I just wanted to, like, throw my controller across the room and turn it off and never play it again.
Yeah, that's true.
So... it got on the edge of that a couple times, like with whatever his name is, the clown on the roller coaster.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that was
really
a bad. That boss was one of the bosses where like we put down the game for like a month or two, and then finally we picked it up.
Same with that the ghost ship mermaid lady. Remember her?
The one that like where the ghosts came and were bullcrap.
Yeah. And she like had like a foghorn that she blew, and the ghost would like hit you.
Oh, yeah.
And then her head blew off. And you had to, like, chase down the head down this, like, narrow pathway.
Yeah. You mean I had to chase down the head?
Yeah, right.
You had died long
I couldn't make it there. I think I made it there maybe once.
That one felt like luck when the boss finally went down.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, oh, thank God. I don't know how it happened, but it's that, yeah, for sure.
Right. So what do you think out of 10? What do you want to give it for gameplay?
We're still, on gameplay, I'm still going 10.
Still going 10 all the way. That's awesome.
Like I haven't felt like I've never felt in recent years I've never felt that much of like an accomplishment for beating a game. Like
right.
even more so than like Dark Souls 3, which is very hard, one of my favorite games too. I beat it and I felt accomplished, but like CupHead was just like it's like that was all me, man. That was just like all skill, 100%.
Right.
So it was very fulfilling to finally beat it.
Well, I gave it a 9. I'm bringing it down a step.
You're wrong. But,
I know.
I mean,
I know.
You're entitled to your opinion.
So let's talk about the music. I gave it a 10 for music. I mean, there was literally nothing wrong with every boss stage had a different song.
Mm-hmm.
Every song had its own like feel that fit the boss really, really well. Or even the level. The run and guns were really good. All the Ink Isles had their own like little theme song to them.
I still got some of them stuck in my head.
Yeah,
like bum ba-dum ba-dum bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da-ba-da-bum.
It's very iconic for the time. Going back to how the gameplay was made, it just it matched. Sorry, not the gameplay, the graphics. How the graphics were made with that time.
Oh yeah, it's straight out of like 30s, 40s, like big band music. Like I could see Louis Armstrong like blowing in a trumpet, in a recording studio specifically for that game. And then
to dive deeper into it with the sound effects of all the bosses and all the little things in this game. You jump on like a drum and it kind of has a bonk to it, you know, like we talked about the tuba guy.
Exactly for sure. And the cherry on the cake, the sundae,
whatever,
or the cake, the cherry on the sweet item,
the cherry on top.
Like. I'm pretty sure every time we booted up the game, we actually waited for the opening song to finish because we wanted to hear it. It was so good. And then, like, we literally stayed in, like, Mr. King Dice kind of guarded the port, like, to leave each of the aisles.
Yep.
And, like, he had his own theme song, and, like, we just stayed in the room. And, like, we went back after we crossed out to, like, listen to the song again. It's like, no, we have to be this aisle to, like...
Yeah.
And, like, the song was just so good that, like it was just so stuck in my head that like I went like to my channel and recorded it too. So
what you were saying to me that female actually?
Yeah, I looked that up.
Insane.
Like we both could have sworn it was a dude, but it was just a very talented female singer with like a deep husky voice.
Very deep.
Yeah.
That King Dice song was probably like I would say that's the best out of the whole.
Oh yeah. It had so much personality that it, like, to me, it's like the sub-boss of Mr. King Dice, like, he stole the show from the devil just because, like, he oozed so much personality that's how it ended up. Like, to me, I felt like we were facing the final boss with Mr. King Dice, and...
It really felt that way, even after we beat King Dice, and then we went to the devil, and the devil just felt like another boss.
Right.
Like
it was
King Dice, It was hard. It was challenging, but not a whole lot different than the rest of them. Like he had his phases, and that was it. You know, we beat him.
Yep.
But like King Dice had such a different. Honestly, I think out of a lot of these kind of games,
it was like a game within a game.
Yeah, it really was.
For sure.
Like you had to. The basics of it. You are fighting Mr. King Dice, but you're in this like craps
craps casino table or whatever
yeah.
whatever you would call it.
And when you roll the dice, you have to fight whatever boss that it lands on. So there are some like free spaces, but there are I think 9 different bosses that you could fight.
I would say 9 because it was like 1, 2, 3 free space.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 free space. And so basically it was a strategy thing where like there would be like an HP up on some of the numbers that was randomized. And if you got super lucky, then like the boss that you felt was the easiest, like you get the HP bonus and fight that boss. But sometimes it's like, well, we can fight our preferred boss.
Right.
Or we can get the HP bonus and try to fight these freaking bottles of liquor that were so cheap.
Right.
So
it's funny because it took us so long in King Dice's stage alone. It was almost like its own aisle even.
Oh yeah.
Because we had to learn all these bosses were kind of small and like mini bosses.
Yeah.
But we had to learn all of them to figure out which ones were the easiest, how to beat them in an efficient manner to actually make it to King Dice. And then King Dice himself was challenging.
Yeah. Well, then, and it came out of nowhere.
It did, yeah.
You thought you would go to like another screen or another arena or something,
and
but then
his hands come down and smash you every time.
For sure. And then I think that's where the parrying mechanic shined the most, where the deck of cards would come marching at you, and then you had to multi-parry on the pink cards to come out the other end. So that's probably where they use the parrying mechanic the best.
That's probably why they had it in the whole game, just to use it as a highlight here. Like, are you good enough at parrying to be able to beat King Dice?
Pretty much, yeah. And also remember that his hand will just come down on you.
And no matter what side you're on.
Yes. How many times did I lose to Mr. King?
I think I only made it to him twice.
I think you made it to him once, and then we both just died or something. But how many times did I lose to like his final phase? Because I forgot that
you gotta stay in the center.
He wasn't just the background. Like he was in the fight with like the deck of cards, and like I'm waiting for the cards to come marching at me again, but like his hands would come down. I just totally forget about it. Yeah. And then there we were back at the beginning.
There's a lot to say about the randomization that there is with some of these bosses. Like, a lot of them have different attacks, but they can do them at any time. They can do them in any order that they...
Yeah.
that the AI wants to play them in.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes you feel like that the boss fight that you were in, you just got lucky. And it's like, oh, well, I just hit like this streak luck, and
a little bit. It also added replayability and like randomization to the point where it's not just like, okay, this boss up, down, middle, down, up. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to come out of different places. The attacks are going to be in different orders. So like, no 2 times fighting the boss was exactly the same. Like, you took general knowledge of learning how they telegraph their attacks and the variety of attacks that they had, and they had so much of variety. That's why it took so long to beat the bosses, because like you had to become familiar with all of their attacks. Yep. Otherwise, like I think one of my favorite bosses was the junkyard robot.
Yeah,
and like the scientist that piloted it, because you had to choose. It's like each section of the robot was armored in a certain way.
You had to choose one section, right, but there was a downfall to it.
Right. So, like, if you took out, like, the bottom part, then, like, I think, like, the missiles would shoot out, or, like, the creatures, something would come out, and it's like, which is...
If you shot the head, he would shoot a big old laser at you.
Exactly. So you had to decide, like, which attack is easiest for me to dodge, and that's the armor component or robot component I'm going to take out first, and then I'm going to save the hardest for last. And it took so many runs to figure that out. It's like, all right, let's go. I don't even remember what order we did it, but it was like, let's do middle, down, up. Like, that's the best. And then finally we mastered that phase. And
then you got to worry about the rest of it, which is all like dodging at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm terrible at that.
Yes.
I was terrible at this game, period.
But here, okay, think about this, though. The fact that you were so terrible at this game, but you still wanted to come back and play it and beat it is...
It says a lot for...
It's tantamount to the game's quality. Right. You still wanted to play it, even though it wasn't necessarily your preferred genre of game or your, your cup of tea. Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh,
I
dang.
realized it was a pun halfway through, and it didn't just...
Oh, that's good. So, sorry, we were talking about music, then we went
Exactly, we went back to gameplay. Are you sure you don't want to change it to a 10? Because we keep talking about it.
I might. You might have convinced me.
I hope so. It deserves it.
You know what? Yeah, I'll go ahead and give it a 10. Why not? So music, you gonna give it a 10 as well?
10 gameplay and 10 music.
Awesome.
Faux show.
So, overall, I do an overall score, which is kind of our overall thoughts and feelings of it, how our experience was playing this game. It's a great game to just kind of pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to remember how to play the game necessarily. It takes so little time to pick it back up and learn the mechanics of it to be able to just kind of pick it up and play whenever.
Yeah.
Replayability is absolutely there.
Oh yeah, I'd replay through the whole, like, if there was like a new person I wanted to show the game to that was new to it, it's like, all right, we're gonna play Cuphead, and like, even though I played it all before, like, I just want to see their reaction.
Well, and there's so many bosses.
Yeah.
Even if you remember bits and pieces of a boss, it would be a whole new learning curve. You would have to figure it all out over again. So, really playing it over again, unless you're, constantly playing it over and over and over again, you'll eventually learn it. But just as a casual gameplay,
yeah,
to go back and play it again would be a very similar experience.
Yeah, it's one of those games where you could just decide, you know what, I'm going to focus on this one boss and become a master slayer of this boss so I can beat it. Or you can have those nights like we had where we just we basically grinded through 4 or 5 bosses, or I think like we did all of Inkwell Isle 2 in a night, which was really impressive. I didn't expect us to make that much progress, but I mean, there were some nights where it's we're going to beat this one boss, now we're done. We're done. We're doing something else, because it was my mental faculties are not there for another boss. And other nights, it's we were just so focused on making progress.
There was some nights that we were playing before I knew it, it was 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It was just time was flying by.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's really... is that daylight coming through the window?
It happens every now and then.
Yeah. Which is a good thing. That speaks to the game for sure.
I think that I would be interested in playing it again, on my own. If they did come out with it on the Switch, I think I would pick it up and just play it, just to see if I can. Because
your Xbox is only for sitting here.
It is, yeah.
The only time you've taken it out.
I haven't actually plugged it in.
Yeah.
I haven't plugged this. I haven't plugged that one in either. I have 2 of them, and I haven't plugged either of them in. Neither of them have been turned on at all. I'm not an Xbox guy. I have them in case I ever want to play an Xbox exclusive, but I mean, if they're going to bring it to Switch, then I'll just play it on Switch.
The one console that I own.
Yep. And most of the games that you have on there are on multiple systems. So
yep, except for Cuphead.
It's true. So, what do you want to give it for an overall score out of 10?
I mean, I'd say 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, it was weak in the story department, but the story served the game, and if they added some pretentious story where,
it was amazing. They're not going to.
It wouldn't serve the game. It's like what? We're animated cups fighting.
Now it's an RPG.
Exactly. Yeah. And now I'm going to level up to 100, and now every time I parry, I shoot a ring of fireballs that do 9,900 damage apiece, and now we can beat Ruby Weapon. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it served the game. So I would say, it's not the game of the decade, 10 out of 10, but it's definitely a solid 9 out of 10 for sure.
Sure. All right, so mine, I gave it an 8, but I think I might. Yeah,
you want to.
Yeah, I think I might. So that's a 46 out of 100 for both of us. That's a 92 out of 100, so 92% game.
Yeah,
I mean that's an A. I mean it's very right on the tip of the iceberg of an A, but it's an A.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I had a good time playing this game. I didn't think we were going to make it all the way through. Like, I kind of had this feeling, especially after we got to the roller coaster guy, I kind of thought, we're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. It's just...
Well, I felt like I had to force us to start again after King Dice. Remember?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I just, like, texted you that one day. I'm like, all right, we're doing Cuphead. Let's do it. You're like, are you ready? No, but if we don't do it, we're just going to, like...
never going to.
3 more months are going to pass, and it's just not going to happen, so...
Yeah. That's true.
So, all I can say is play the game. Like, if you're on the fence, just get the game for sure.
Yeah, it's worth it. I mean, the overall experience is so good. I mean, aside from the hard bosses, I mean, you go into it knowing that it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that it's going to be a bit of a grind to figure them out. I mean, it's a good game. It really, really is.
If you're not the kind of person that wants things handed to you and is like, oh, well, I fought the same boss 3 times now and I can't beat it, so I guess that's it. And then you move on to something else, other forms of entertainment. Then, you know, if you want to work for the win and you want to play a difficult game that rewards you for improving, then like this is it. This is your game.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that is it for our discussion on Cuphead. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Next episode is going to be hopefully Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm not playing it, but our other team is. So
wait, I got to tell a Kingdom Hearts 3 story.
Yeah, go for it.
So, one of my other friends, he a few months ago, something like that. It was like 2 weeks before Kingdom Hearts 3 released.
Right.
And what he told me was, hey, the first weekend of whatever, like, you want to come over to my house? Because I know you don't have a PS4 and the Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming out. I'm like, what? So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then, like, I'm psyched up for this weekend, and I'm all prepared and everything, and, like, the day before I go over, he's like, oh, hey, you know how I said, like, the Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming out? It's actually Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh.
I'm just like... Why did Square invest its resources in Kingdom Hearts 3 when they've had this Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer
for so long?
Oh.
So long. I know. Hopefully we'll see something from Final Fantasy VII soon. I'm planning on playing it like as soon as it comes out, obviously. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, next episode, Kingdom Hearts 3, hopefully. They changed it for the last episode to Halo 2 because they needed more time to play this game, which I figured they weren't. I think I said it in one of my last episodes that they weren't going to make it, so they didn't. So yeah, hopefully they'll be done with Kingdom Hearts 3. If not, I'm sure they'll play something else, but we'll keep everybody updated on the website. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Mark, for hanging out with us and talking about Cuphead. And we will see you all on the next episode. Bye.